Hey, good morning, Moses.
Good morning, Yusuf. How you doing?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
Great, great.
Okay, so back to our discussion. Is my volume quite okay?
Yes, the volume is good.
Okay, all right. So let's continue with this long discussion we've been having over the past couple of months.
Yeah.
On local exchanges, the next wave
Yes.
of community building,
Mm.
knowing that these are things going on in America which we think we can learn from.
Mm-hmm.
So we had made quite some progress.
Yes.
And this is where we stopped. We should start from here, which is actually a good point to start from. The vision of local stock exchanges. Right? So, again, the same format. I could probably, just read a paragraph or so, and then we both offer a commentary or an understanding on it as we try to break it down and make it palatable to us here, because these are really American concepts. All right. So throughout most of this country's history, securities were issued by local companies based in specific states, were traded on stock exchanges within each state, and were regulated by each state. So some state exchanges were efficient, honest, and successful, while others were sloppy, corrupt, and uneconomic. So after the Great Depression hit, I think this was what, 1930s?
Yeah, in the 1930s.
Yes.
Yeah.
Congress stepped in to place the entire industry under national supervision. So mindful of the principles of federalism, it established a two-tier regulatory regime, a national system overseen by the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, for the creation and trading of stocks across the country. Okay, so that's the national system, and state systems overseen primarily by state regulators for the creation and trading of stock within a given state. All right. So in our situation here, we only have a national system.
Yeah, that's true. We have the Uganda Securities Exchange.
Okay, that would be the equivalent of the
SEC.
Okay, the SEC. Okay, it's the USE. Okay, and we do not have local, like, state systems, huh?
No, we don't. I think that's why we are having this conversation. To encourage and to learn from what has happened elsewhere and see if we can apply it in Uganda.
But I think it's also important to note that, as they're saying here, stock exchanges, some are efficient, honest, and successful. Others are sloppy, corrupt, and uneconomic.
Yep.
So it's not like a perfect situation. Okay.
As with all systems, it comes down to the heart of the people that are running them. Yep. You can design a beautiful system, but so long as the hearts of the people are not in the right place.
Okay, so I think we should note that this should be a part of the vision for a stock exchange which is efficient, honest, and successful, rather than sloppy, corrupt, and uneconomic. Okay. So, for a number of understandable reasons, the state systems largely fell into desuetude. What does that word mean? Right. Desuetude. Is that how it's pronounced? A state of disuse.
Okay. It's a new word for me too. That's a new one for me too.
It's a strong word right there. So, so
It's
after
a
a
bit,
number of understandable reasons,
yes.
the state systems fell into disuse. So remember, there's a national and a state system. So, but it's the state system which fell into disuse. The priority of most companies selling stock was to get as much capital as possible from as many investors as possible, irrespective of where they lived. Creating stocks tradable on national security markets offered greater demand for the stock, greater liquidity, that is, the ability to have ready cash to buy and sell the stock, and greater opportunities for profit from the secondary trading of the securities. But the possibility of local stocks and local exchanges has been and remains firmly embedded in US law. It is a sleeping giant. Okay, so just from this paragraph, I'm noting that after these state systems fell in desuetude, probably one of the reasons is that the priority of most companies was to get as much capital as possible from investors, irrespective of where they lived. Because the state is a small location as opposed to the national stage. So why would companies focus on just investors within a state when they could go to the national stage? So creating stocks tradable on a national secondary market indeed would offer greater demand and more liquidity and greater opportunities to profit. So, I mean, like any product, it must have demand and, of course, liquidity, which is, the ability to have cash in the market, as well as opportunities for profit. Everyone wants to profit from these stocks. Okay, so because of these reasons, the national, or rather the state systems fell into disuse, but the possibility of local stocks and local exchanges still remains firmly embedded in the US law. It's still a sleeping giant. Every now and then, a story comes along that reminds us of the existence of the state systems. For example, Ben and Jerry's first issued public stock. When Ben and Jerry's first issued public stock, it was basically a statewide offering. You had to be a Vermont resident. Vermont is a US state, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So you had to be a Vermont resident to buy or sell the securities. Subsequent stock issues by Ben and Jerry's, however, were conventional national offerings. Gradually, the company lost its tether to Vermont and ultimately was purchased by Unilever in a hostile takeover. Right? Let me just try to understand what Ben and Jerry's was. Homemade holdings.
Ice cream, frozen yogurt, sorbet, and non-dairy. Yeah, I think they were like some kind of
in Vermont.
ice cream makers. Yeah.
Okay, so it's still around, but it was bought by Unilever in what they are calling a hostile takeover. So it's just an example of people who initially issued stock locally, but then subsequent issues were made on a national level, and I guess that exposed them to, the big hawks. So that would be something scary, a big hawk coming to take over your company. So the prevailing view is that it is difficult and expensive to do any of the 5 essential pieces of successful stock exchanges, which is to create local stock, to sell it initially, to evaluate it, to trade it, and to assemble it into diversified portfolios. So this is just the prevailing view that it is difficult and it is expensive. So it is worth mentioning that historically, these same tasks confronted investors interested in larger companies. But throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, new financial intermediaries emerged, making it possible to restructure companies so that they had tradable stock shares. Okay. New financial intermediaries emerged. That sounds like us. Yeah. My point here is that, so that they had tradable stock shares to evaluate the worth of shares and to exchange shares on various public stock markets. So my point here is that we already know how to do these tasks pretty well. Now we need to apply our know-how to local companies. Okay, so I think the rest of this article, of this section on the vision of local exchanges, is going into these these 5 essential pieces of creating a successful stock exchange, which currently is being viewed as difficult and expensive. But he's assuring us that this is common knowledge that everyone knows and has been doing, but for the larger companies. But let's see how to apply our know-how on the local companies. Is there anything you'd like to add on before we jump in here?
I think it's pretty clear.
So far, so good.
Yeah, it's so far so good. Yeah.
Okay, let's go on. So the first point, okay, but just to recap on these 5 pieces: creating local stock, selling it initially, evaluating it, trading it, and assembling it into diversified portfolio. All right. So creating local stocks. The first task is to reorganize a great local company so that it has shares that outside investors can buy. So Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and New York are examples of states where it is difficult and expensive to create local stocks. But there are some states which have already streamlined the process. New Mexico's Public Law 27J, I think you should look into this. If the state has already streamlined the process. For example, allows you to fill out a few simple forms, send in $300, and voila, you can sell stock to unaccredited residents of the state. No, I meant to ask you this last time. Does this concept of accredited versus accredited investors apply to us here?
No.
In our laws?
No. No, it doesn't. It's just what we have is in some of the regulations around collective investment schemes, we have people referred to as high net worth persons. So they are what we refer to as sort of like minimum capital standards to invest in particular schemes. So for example, let me give you like a real estate investment trust. They would say at a minimum, you need to invest 150 million. So we don't really have things like accredited or unaccredited
Yes.
investors. We basically just have like thresholds of how much you can invest. So that kind of it filters people.
Oh, okay. But does that mean I could have as many investors who raise that threshold?
Yes, you're right. You can. So if the threshold is 150, for example, for a real estate investment trust, then you can get friends, maybe 15 people each contributing 10 million. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
As long as the threshold, irrespective of the number of investment.
By
Okay.
the way, Yusuf, I have contacts to Key, the former chairman of the Capital Markets Authority.
Yes,
So maybe we can invite him sometime.
definitely. I mean,
Yes.
is he too busy? Is he...
I'm going to reach out to him. Let me write him after this meeting and just say, there's something that he had asked me to do for him, but we shall see. Yeah.
Concerning the stocks and so on.
No, concerning some business he has. He wanted to get some sales. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I mean, that guy being the former chairman of, was it the chairman or the CEO?
Yeah, he was a CEO. CEO.
And was it of the Capital Markets Authority or the Securities Exchange?
No, the Capital Markets Authority, the entire thing, the regulator. Yes.
Yeah, no, definitely. We need to have these contacts to give us better perspective of what's going on. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, yet even in jurisdictions where larger legal expenses loom, there are ways one can tiptoe around them, as the people of Powell, Wyoming, demonstrated. So in 1999, when the community of 5,200 people lost its general store and failed to lure a big box store to take its place, residents decided to build their own general store. They secured the funds they needed to get what they called the mercantile app. The mercantile app. We'll probably look into that. And running from a small stock issue. Let me see. Where would that be? The
mercantile app.
Is that how it's written? Is it a particular word? Maybe it's explained in detail. So they secured the funds they needed to get what they call the mercantile app and running from a small stock issue.
Could that be that they were running as a mercantile, like a merchant bank? First open our Financial Institutions Act. They define in section 1, I think they define those types of banks. Let's see.
What should I open?
The Financial Institutions Act, section 1. Financial Institutions Act.
Is it a PDF? This could be a PDF.
Open the Yuli one. Yuli is most up to date. Uganda Legal Information Institute. Okay, whichever is fine. So let's go to section 1. Yeah, scroll down kindly. Kindly scroll down. Let's see. You go down. Just keep scrolling. Now. Yeah. Continue. Interpretation section. Section 3. Go down. Scroll down to M.
To M.
Yeah. It's alphabetical.
Mortgage. Oh, merchant banking.
Yeah. Let's go. Yeah.
So this is L.
Sorry. Oh, hey, merchant banking. You don't define it. Let's go down.
There's no definition there.
No, it's because you're still an F. Go to M.
Oh, F.
Yeah, you're still an F.
So M.
Go up. Merchant banking means the business of a merchant bank. Really? So let's go up a little bit. So like there are different types of bank.
Okay,
yes. Right here, yeah. So means a company licensed to carry on financial institution business in Uganda and whose business consists mainly in acceptance of call and time deposits from corporate, institutional, and international clients, withdrawable by check or otherwise, and engage in finance of international trade, provision of corporate services, advisory, provision of foreign exchange facilities, engaging in bond issues and other securities, buying and selling of shares, investing, portfolio management, investment advisory services, arranging finance, lending or participation in syndicated loans, and acting as guarantors and financing or lending in the institutional money markets. So what do you think?
I think so. So this part here.
Yes.
Right. So it's a bank. Okay, it's a licensed financial institution.
Yes.
Whereas you can accept these deposits, right, and check normal banking things, but it seems you have these extra added what do you call them?
Services.
Services, engaging in issuing bonds and others. Okay, so you're telling me a commercial bank doesn't do this?
No, it doesn't. Commercial banks deal in deposit taking and money lending.
So would it be the same requirements to start a merchant bank? By the way, this recently closed bank, Mercantile Bank, it's a merchant bank.
I think so. From its name, yes, it would insinuate that that's what it was. So there's this kind of bank is maybe the kind that could allow us to facilitate local art.
Okay, that's
anyway,
noted.
Can go back
Yes.
to that.
Yes.
So you can either do a merchant bank, then maybe also an investment bank. Yeah.
Is investment bank also mentioned here?
I think it's mentioned down. Oh, here. No. Investment banks now, those are governed by the Capital Markets. You would have to go to the Capital Markets Act. Capital Markets Act. Yeah, Capital Markets Authority Act. Yeah, that's right. You click that.
Okay.
So, yeah, scroll down.
Investment advisor.
Yeah, that's the one. So
investment advisor.
Yeah, investment advisor. That's an individual. Yeah, so you can see here, carries on a business of advising others concerning securities as part of issues or publishes analysis reports concerning securities. Yep. So that's part of it. So you would have to get a license as an investment
as a bank.
Yes. A bank as defined section 1. Okay, you can see there. All right. That's a merchant bank, you get?
So a merchant bank can be an investment advisor.
Yes, but also you have to note that these larger banks also have wings.
Yes, they do.
Investment advisory, Stanbic Bank, and all those other banks have. But I think they don't get these special licenses. Standard Chartered Bank, so they get these special licenses.
Indeed. Okay, great. It's good to explore around and make this make more sense for us. So these guys in Powell, Wyoming, in 1999, a community of 5,200 people, they lost their general store and they failed to lure a big box store to take its place. But residents decided to build their own general store. They secured the funds they needed to get what they called the mercantile up and running from a small stock issue. Formerly, you had to be a resident of Wyoming to buy and sell the stock, but effectively, the shares were sold only to members of the community. The MAC started selling its stock like Girl Scout cookies, door to door for $500 a share. The local newspaper editor promoted the stock in his column, and the ads contained testimonials from stock purchasers whose ages ranged from 9 to 94. So after $325,000 was raised from 328 investors, the store opened in July 2002 and began selling shoes, clothes, and accessories. The Powell mark made money from day one, according to its chairman, a retired pharmacist, and it cleared $500,000 in sales in the first year. It's now a tourist destination with busloads of visitors going to see the Powell miracle, and it has inspired other communities to replicate the model. Washaki Ware near Warland, Wyoming, our store in Torrington, Wyoming, and the Garnet. Okay, these are all examples in Nevada, others which have replicated the model. Wow, is this something which is really far-fetched from us to think that $325,000 can be raised, right, from investors? Let me see, 325,000. I'm just trying to see how much the average.
About 1,100, maybe.
Oh, okay. Roughly $990 per investor on average. Okay. But maybe some people are wealthier than others and it would balance out. But each share, you can see, would start at $500. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So, and it opened in July 2002. Okay, maybe they don't give us a timeline, but here in 1999 is when they lost.
So within 3 years.
Okay. So I think that's also another perspective that we don't seem to understand, that fundraising can take time and it can be a period. Okay. So ultimately, there is no good reason, and this is when they are talking about you. There is no good reason why an entrepreneurial lawyer couldn't set up a technical assistance service that issued stock at a low cost, fill in the blanks kind of way. Let me highlight this for you. There is no good reason, right? So, like an underwriter, he or she could take a small percentage of the stock issue as payment. What do you say about that, Moses?
No, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
For many years, the Nolo Press in Berkeley has been carrying forms, do-it-yourself books, DVDs, and other tools that enable non-lawyers to do their own trusts, wills, estates, divorces, and so on.
Like what we're doing with our platform.
Exactly. There is nothing particularly exotic about drawing up a similar cookbook-like template to facilitate public security offerings. Recently, a new campaign in Auckland called Cutting Edge Capital has begun to offer direct offerings for $5,000 to $10,000, which is a fraction of the $50,000 to $100,000 charged by corporate lawyers. Okay, so whereas generally this discussion is on public security offerings, which I know we are not also going to limit ourselves to this, though we come from a perspective of small businesses, but we know private companies here are also not utilizing the full 100 shareholders that they are given to raise capital and remain private, right? Let alone moving beyond the 100 to become a public company. But this is an interesting challenge for you. You know, there is no good reason why you couldn't be able to set up a small technical service. But I
Mm.
think you're already halfway there.
Oh yeah, I think so. I think so. I also agree, and I think this is exactly where we want to be, and maybe this is what informed our joining this discussion. Yeah. I don't know if I could show you our vision at some point, but it's really we're looking at access.
Is it on your website, Legal AI?
Oh, actually, we have. Let me see if I can open up my website. We're looking at access
I could share
to.
it here.
All right, let me see if I can share. Let me just try and get it. It's something that's just a moment.
No problem.
Just forwarding it to you. Hope this doesn't let me down. My phone is pretty much on like almost about to die. Yusuf. Okay, first click that someone has worked on our website. Just okay, you can now have set it here on WhatsApp.
Okay. Is it still in development?
Yes, but it's we can check it out. So like go down. It's
Yes.
pretty much more or less or done. You see here. So you can see we're also invested in facilitating access to capital for individuals, businesses, and communities in Africa.
Yes.
You've seen our goal?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's so.
Yes.
So it's pretty much. So we're using the AI technology is basically just all around investor readiness and. So it's DIY legal documents, but also we put spin-offs. So anyway, we don't want much to. So that's in development. I think we'll wrap up next week. We're trying. We had a website which wasn't so nice, so we're trying to improve it. Okay. All right.
Yes,
all right.
that's good. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So yeah, which is why even myself, having read all this, I still could see that I am limited on my accounting, background. That I still need to work with a lawyer to do this. So yes, you're already in a do-it-yourself mentality, giving people templates, as he calls it, low cost, fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
But yes, you're doing it for company creation and change of directors and so on, things like that, right? But maybe we need to explore the extra mile of stock issues. All right, what they call it. There's nothing particularly exotic about drawing up a similar cookbook template to facilitate. In our case, we'll say to facilitate public securities offerings as well as the private ones, right? Which was the memorandum of what's the word? That document for private companies.
Information memorandum.
Yes, something like that. Yeah, so I think this is the discussion that we need to be focusing on. So that was the first point, creating local stocks, because these are the difficult and expensive things which are keeping people out of doing these local exchanges. So if we could work on that point, that would be progress. So point number 2, initial sales of stocks. So once the local stock is created, a second task looms large, the initial sale. Most companies don't have the entire community involved as Powell did, though this is an intriguing model for other small towns. Still, it is interesting to note that even in New Mexico, where it is easy and inexpensive to create stock, almost no one does it. The reason is that no one has the time, the expertise, or the ability to sell stock. Wow. Right? Even when the law allows you, even when the law has made it easy, still people don't have the time and the expertise and the ability. So how might a new Mexican small business that created local stock on the cheap actually sell its shares? Right? So you created your stock, but how are you really going to sell it? Indeed, it's a challenge. When a big company goes public, an underwriter usually steps in for a flat fee or a percentage, sells the initial offering through a network of broker dealers.
That's the investment bank. So the underwriter there could be like an investment bank. Not limited to, but most times it's an investment bank. So that's why you would see Stanbic Bank coming in as the underwriter for like MT or Airtel. So the idea there is that the underwriter gets the shares at a discount. So, and then sells them with a markup. So basically, so maybe if you're selling like shares at $500 a share, maybe they could buy the shares off the company at maybe $400 a share. And then they go out and do the marketing and everything. So the advantage for the company is that the company does not have to do its own selling.
Yes.
It can continue focusing on product development and just selling its products and not have to get involved in the whole fundraising exercise. Then for the investment bank, it makes for them their business becomes to sell the shares. So the more shares they manage to sell, the more they will make. So the shares then become theirs, to sell.
Yeah, and to me, this makes business sense. It's like anything else where a producer of a good decides to focus on only production and gets a distributor or a wholesaler to be involved in the selling. Right?
I don't know. I learned a new word 2 weeks ago. Merchant recording. What is it? A merchant of record. There's something called someone called a merchant of record. You can check it out.
A merchant of record.
Yes.
The term to describe a legal entity that handles all payments. In addition, it takes on the liability related to every transaction to one end customer, be it selling goods or services. It arranges all due payments, ensures PCI compliance, and takes care of any refunds and chargebacks. Okay.
That one now, like in the business space, it's someone who takes on administrative tasks, like receiving monies from your clients and all of that. They do that on your behalf, and then you focus on just the actual
on your real day-to-day.
Yes.
So among the things they are talking about here, okay, we could envision this part, right?
Yes.
Would we also be involved in this part? Because now this requires to be an underwriter, or as you called it, a merchant of, is it a merchant of record?
Okay, in this case, it would be an underwriter.
An underwriter.
Yes.
Because ultimately this is buying more or less a wholesaler of your stocks. He buys all your stock.
Yes.
For a flat fee or a percentage. And then, okay, and that's what is the initial public offering through a network of broker dealers. Okay. So unfortunately, few broker dealers or underwriters, not just in New Mexico, but anywhere, consider the small potatoes of, say, $1 million stock offering worth the transaction costs of performing due diligence on a small company. From the standpoint of the New Mexican business, why bother to use the Public Law 27J when you have to spend months selling the stock rather than tending to the development of your business. Yeah, that's an interesting quagmire.
Mm.
So let me ask you another question, and I've had this before. People say that the due diligence it takes to perform on a big company is the same as the due diligence it takes to perform on a small company.
Mm.
And therefore they would rather focus on big companies.
Mm.
Not to mention the small commission here,
Mm.
what they are considering small potatoes on $1 million stock.
Mm.
If he's making 5% or of that, that's 100K. But if it's a large offering, like in the billions, they are probably going to focus on the large offerings.
Mm.
How would this affect us here in terms of doing due diligence, especially on your side, legal due diligence? Is it really the same whether you're doing legal due diligence for a small company versus a big company? Are your costs going to be the same?
It will be maybe yes and no, but it's yes on one front in the sense that you still need to scrutinize the legal documents as if, I mean, there's no difference in the sense that you have to, do the searches at URSB to determine who the directors are. You have
Yes.
to run to the different, go to URA. So in terms of which entities you visit, pretty much the same, really. What interviews you conduct, pretty much the same. But maybe if you're dealing with a bigger company, I think the paperwork is a lot more because imagine the number of contracts that a bank like Stanbic gets into vis-a-vis
Yes.
a small business. So maybe on the determining legal status and the like, it's very, very similar because a certificate of incorporation is a certificate of incorporation, whether you're big or small, But when it comes to like the transactions, being able to review the transactions, I think, to be honest, it would be more expensive to review a big business's transactional history. And because then you're doing due diligence on two fronts.
Yes.
There's the legal due diligence and there's the financial due diligence.
Even the financial, yeah.
Yes, so you can imagine, obviously, the more paperwork, I think, the more the work, Yeah. So I would say it's not the same cost, really. It's a little cheaper for a smaller company. But in terms of mental application, like attention to detail and the like, it's still the same. You have to give the same amount of seriousness to.
Yes, so
Yeah.
indeed there might be a minimum cost to do a due diligence.
Yes.
And if it is a small company, they need to think about that cost, whether it's going to dig into their pockets.
Yes.
Okay. But so these are the challenges, right? So why would a new business bother to pursue this? You spend months selling. So basically the absence of an underwriter is a challenge. Number one here was the absence of entrepreneurial lawyers to create simple cookbook templates. And number two is the absence of underwriters who have the ability, not even the ability, but the capital also to buy all your stock wholesale, right? So that for you, you get your capital and you go about your business, right? You focus on tending on the development of your business. This person focuses on the months and months it takes to sell stock. That's a serious reality check right there. Yeah. So there are.
But we need to study what that public law 27J is.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to see what it says also. Like,
Please, let's look into this, huh? Okay. So there are several interesting ways to meet this challenge. It is not far-fetched to imagine a new breed of broker-dealer who specializes in small stock sales, someone who patiently develops a list of investors in the state who might be interested in local stocks and lets them know, perhaps monthly, about the latest offerings available for purchase. Right? That is one way. So he's also providing solutions. I don't know if this is part of your vision, that not only do you specialize in small stock sales, but you're patiently developing a list of investors, right, who are interested in your niche local stocks, and you let them know perhaps monthly of the latest offerings available. So it's some kind of newsletter or something. So maybe you'll tell me more about that. But alternatively, a company going public is now legally permitted to sell and buy shares of its own on its website. Right? And for some companies, presenting the public with local stock might actually be a useful way of building interest and buzz about a product before it enters the market. So, what do you say about these 2 points? First of all, is this part of your vision to be a new breed of a broker dealer? Or we're adding too much on your plate?
No, I think that particular part would require both accountants.
Yeah, I think now that's me now.
Yes, to require both accountants with us putting our minds together, because there's a lot of mathematics there, you know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, and in my case, this is indeed under my docket, because I now have the tech, the ERP, which would get businesses, their accounting in place, right? And that way I would gradually build the list of companies, right?
I'm now appreciating your vision more.
Yes.
Yes.
And my tech can also help me create a newsletter easily. It can give investors visibility into all these companies, right? So that gradually I build that marketplace of investors and businesses, right? So yeah, sounds like point number 2 is mine, and point number 1 is yours. Okay. So, by the way, are we public companies here allowed to sell stock on their websites? Or must you sell your stocks on a stock exchange or over the counter?
Yeah, that's
something we can look into.
Yeah, something we can look into, because I don't see what would scope. Yeah, let's look into it. That's before I make a mistake on answering. But yes, it's something to look into.
Okay.
I always thought that you need to do it through a stock exchange, but I see it could be possible.
Because there are so many public companies which are not on stock exchanges.
Yes, because you can have more than 100. What examples do you know? Or you're not allowed?
Well, I interacted with Kilembe Investments.
Yes, in Kasese.
In Kasese. I was teaching the accountants how to use Tally. And they are a public company with thousands of shareholders. They are an electric utility.
I've been there. I've been to the factory itself. Yeah.
And what I noticed is when you walk into their office, customers are there either to pay their electric bill or to buy some shares over the counter. Yeah. So the accountants sell both products. So people come in, hey, I'm buying some shares, and they receive that money and they receive it, right? As well as, hey, I'm paying for my electric bill, they receive that money. You see, so that is what's happening over the counter there. But the first example I saw was Greenland Bank. Yeah, Greenland Investments, and I recall walking into there with my old man in 1996, 7 there.
Yes, that is
So we walked
Chigundu.
in. Huh?
Chigundu.
Yes. So we walked into the
Still
bank.
alive?
Huh?
Is Mr. Chigundu still alive?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay.
But his son is, and I'm in touch with his son. He's a very brilliant man.
Okay.
Based somewhere in the US, and he's also crazy about all these stock markets and whatnot. Okay. He actually runs a publicly traded company in the US.
Wow.
Yeah, these are the brilliant minds we have in our circles, which, of course, we need to make use of now. For him, obviously, having grown up and worked in the US, Uganda is just so insignificant a market for him. But for capital markets development, still we can engage these brilliant minds to make this thing palatable to us. So yeah, so I think a lot of public companies are selling their stock over the counter, but I'm not sure whether they're doing it on their websites, because generally, I guess even internet use is still quite a bit on the low. Right? But I would expect people at least to be using the mobile banking platforms. So Kirembe Mines, I know that the customers use Pegasus over their mobile phones to pay for the electric bills as well. Besides walking into the office to pay, you can pay on mobile. So I'm not sure whether people could also buy their shares via that Pegasus platform. Yeah. So I think definitely let's expand our outlook and look at the existing public companies as core customers, probably initial customers of our services. And then also look at the small good companies. So like he said here, the first task was to organize a great local company. Yeah. But of course, for him, this whole discussion is in the context of taking companies public, but on local exchanges, community-owned exchanges, which have lower regulations. So, Moses, should we keep it at this for today?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think we've learned so much, yeah.
It's been a good discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we are making progress through this article. We should be able to finish it in a few more sittings. Huh?
So what's next for the listeners next week? What are we tackling?
Well, we're still on these 5 points, which are making it difficult, or which it's people are perceiving, but it's also indeed difficult to run successful exchanges. So we've looked at creating local stock, and the solution is to have entrepreneurial lawyers make documentation accessible in a do-it-yourself, fill in the blanks kind of way. And then to be able to sell the stocks, now that's when but not just the accountants, but what was that? Underwriters. Someone with capital comes in. So yeah, so this new breed of broker dealer who also has the capital or has organized investors. Yeah, so in that sense, you have the capital. Yeah, so I feel that this, I think this falls within my docket. So we'll continue with the other points. Trading stock, now that you've created it and you've sold it initially, how can people now exchange it? That's the third point. And that's basically the stock exchanges. Then how can you evaluate them, right? And definitely, how can we create diversified portfolios so that we reduce the risks? So I think these top 5 points is what we should finish up in the next sitting, right? Then we can go on to other points of discussion. Yeah. Any last words?
Nope, it's been fun. Thank you very much. I actually like how practical this is.
That's great.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, actually, I talked to a friend yesterday that we usually have this talk, and he was like, a friend and a client. I was like, I'd like to listen to it. To listen to what you guys are discussing. Yeah.
Okay. You know what? Let me just publish this immediately, and we give him a link, and he tests it.
Yeah, that's okay. How's because Kilembe also I know is trying to get like investors. A few, maybe 3-4 years ago, I saw that in the newspapers.
No, my interaction with them was very brief, but I suspect they're also in talks with Umeme to merge with Umeme. Yeah, it wasn't very easy to sell power.
I have a friend called Joseph. He's an accountant as well, and he's very keen on. He tells me about life in Kilembe, like how they. He grew up there. His parents worked there, and how that. You know how a business can transform and.
Definitely an entire society.
Yeah. Same as where I come from. My mom works at a missionary hospital. It's in a park district. And that hospital was set up in 1970. I was actually born there. And, you know, the interesting thing is it's really changed, like, the lives of the community. So
yes,
there's a lot of value in, you know, in ensuring that these local businesses stay alive.
Yes. So once we know that, now let us add on this extra meat, the legal paperwork and the accountability and investors, so that we ensure that these businesses indeed succeed, so that we develop our communities. They are the ones more likely to develop communities than even the government, I'm telling you.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Moses.
Yeah,
let's maybe try to interest 1 or 2 other people to join us next Friday, and we see how that goes.
Okay, let me see if I can get some people to join us.
All right, then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, too. Catch you later.
Okay.